Hi, I'm Wallace. I'm the founder and CEO of Above Board Financial. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you how life insurance pricing works. And we're going to go through an actual example, of course, with no names. Now, an important thing to know about life insurance is that each life insurance company has to file its rates with the state insurance regulator. And by law, the same product, regardless of how it's offered, whether it's offered directly by the carrier or through an independent brokerage like my company, Above Board Financial, or a different independent brokerage, then the price for the same thing has to be the same. So it's basically the opposite of buying a car, where obviously when you buy a car, there's a lot of negotiation, and the same thing can sell for different prices all the time. Now, with life insurance, though, do not assume that that means that it doesn't matter who you work with or where you go, because in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. In terms of getting the best deal for life insurance, it's really important to go someplace. And at Above Board Financial, our whole process is built around these principles where they work with many different carriers. They don't have a special incentive to sell for one carrier versus others. And we're philosophically really committed to getting the best deal for our clients and always being very transparent and able to explain to you the why of what we're recommending and what we're doing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and screen share here, and you will see how pricing works with this example. Okay, cool. So let me pull up my laser pointer here, and we're going to take a look at this example, which we just happen to be using $1 million of 30-year term for a 33-year-old female in California. But it's going to work the same way, regardless of what type of coverage you're talking about or the profile of the client. So if we were looking at whole life insurance for a 60-year-old male, the same concepts would apply. Now, in this example, we're looking at two carriers, carrier A and carrier B. And these are all the different levels of pricing that they offer. And you can see that they have a lot of different levels. And you might be wondering, well, how do they decide? Well, that's where the underwriting process comes in after you apply. The carrier reviews your medical information, your lifestyle profile, and decides which level you are qualified for. So one of the things we do at Above Board is that we really focus on gathering information from you so that we can make a good estimate about what is realistic for you. And we always like to have our clients be really clear about the pricing they are likely to qualify for before applying. You might notice that on some other sites or some other professionals in the industry, they quote really low rates. And oftentimes what's going on there is that they might be quoting preferred best pricing for everyone, regardless of whether the person would actually qualify for that pricing. And that's what I call bait and switch. We don't do that here at Above Board. Bait and switch is when you advertise the best tier or the preferred tier to everybody, regardless of their actual attributes. And then you draw them into an application process and then surprise them later with a more expensive offer. I assume those folks are just hoping that clients will get tired and take whatever they're offered at that point. But Above Board, we totally reject that approach. And we work really hard to make sure that we know in advance, based on the information you've shared with us, what you're likely to qualify for. Now, looking at this list too, you might notice that carrier A appears to be a lot less expensive than carrier B. And some of that might be driven by what the conversion option is in the policies. And I have other videos about conversion options, but it's just the right to convert your term insurance coverage to permanent coverage. But let's set that aside. Let's say that this client only cares about the term insurance protection. Are there other reasons why this person might choose carrier B instead of carrier A? And the answer is absolutely yes. So let's assume that in addition to this profile we already shared, this person takes two medications for mental wellness and has a diagnosis of moderate depression. Not mild, not severe, but moderate. So carrier A would look at that profile and they would say, okay, under our guidelines, that person would qualify most likely for table two. That would be $123 per month. Whereas carrier B would look at that same profile and say, oh, because this person's moderate depression is well controlled on those two medications, they would qualify for preferred. So the different carriers can have really different ideas about how they would price somebody. And that's not true for everyone. Some people are well qualified for the best tier pricing from any carrier. But for folks who have any level of nuance in their profiles, oftentimes some carriers are a much better fit for them than other carriers. And Above Board, we take a lot of pride in really being diligent about figuring out the best match between a carrier and a client so they end up with the best deal. And one other thing I wanted to mention that can make it just a little more confusing is that different carriers use different names for the same idea. And so here I've screenshotted just a few of the carriers that we work with. These are all different carriers. And you can see over on the right side that we have what they call the sort of standard basic tier of pricing. This is where it's pretty straightforward. Most carriers use the word standard to describe that. Some call it non-smoker or non-tobacco, but overall it's pretty clear. Now, as you look at those discount classes, you'll see that some carriers offer 2 levels of discount to standard, others offer 3. And by the time you get to the 2 best tiers of pricing, the best and the second best, that's when they're getting really creative. It's almost like they're competing to see who can use their thesaurus to come up with a more exciting way to describe what this level of pricing is. So they're throwing around all kinds of words like preferred, elite, ultra, best. And ultimately, the name they're using doesn't really matter. It comes down to what the pricing is for what you're getting. And at above board, you should always feel free to ask us, what level of pricing is this? And why do you think I would qualify for that? And we're happy to explain that to you. And, it's important to keep in mind that the guidelines for these different levels some of them are pretty clearly set out. Right. So if somebody finds out through the paramedical exam that their cholesterol is, say, 320, even if that person is an overall healthy individual, that is not going to qualify for the best tier of pricing at pretty much any carrier. There could be some ways through credits that you could obtain that if everything else is awesome. But you really have to be realistic with people about what you can actually expect to get out of the process. And so I would definitely encourage you, for anybody that you're working with, to really dig into what quotes are being shown and the amount of homework they've done to gain confidence that that's really what you would likely qualify for. And if you'd like to explore your life insurance options, come visit us at aboveboardfinancial.com or drop us a note at hello@aboveboardfinancial.com, and we would be happy to help you.